let's talk about mobile network services, and then the policy and regulation that impact this industry. So for mobile networks, there are two important policy frameworks that I already mentioned earlier. C 7925 or the Public Telecoms Policy Act of 1995 and C Act 3846 or the Radio Control Law of 1931. The Radio Control Law was last amended in 1950, but it did not really make a huge difference. No, it actually just added more permits. Trivia: bakit siya Act 3846? Bakit si RA Republic Act? So Act 3846 siya because, and this is really testament to how outdated this law is. When Act 3846 was enacted, the Philippines was not yet a republic and also not yet a commonwealth. So it was under American rule. And at the time, the legislature passes what's called public acts. So yun ang tawag sa mga batas before. But then that public act needs to be approved by the American Governor General in the Philippines kasi sakop tayo ng Americans before. That's why it's called Act and not Republic Act. But in 1935, we actually became a commonwealth. So the law after the Radio Control Law, which was the Public Service Act that was passed in 1936, was already called a Commonwealth Act. And then finally, when we became a republic, naging Republic Act. Okay, game. RA 7925. So the Public Telecommunications Policy Act provides the general framework for the telecom sector. It is primarily concerned with entities providing telecom services to the public for a fee. So this is the final act of the Ramos administration to liberalize and break PLDT's monopoly at the time. So one of the things that that's very important when setting a policy is the objective. So during the Ramos administration, the objective was to break the monopoly of PLDT, which at the time was the only local exchange operator who also owned the backbone and international gateway facilities. So RA 7925 encouraged more private sector players in telecommunications, and it also opened up the mobile radio telephone industry. Under RA 7925, there are actually four categories of telecommunications. The local exchange service for landlines, the fixed landline telephone, the inter-exchange carrier service, or the backbone used for for national long distance, the international carrier or the gateway used for making international calls, and the mobile radio telephone system. Meron pa dyang actually, paging system, ganyan. Pero hindi ko na sinama. So, a mobile radio telephone system is defined by law as a wide area mobile radio telephone system with its own switch, base station, transmission facilities that's capable of providing mobile telecom by utilizing radio frequencies. Okay. A mobile radio service or a mobile network operator, MNO, is a public telecoms entity. So, it is required to obtain a franchise from Congress before it can commence or conduct its business. And after that, a Certificate of Public Convenience and Necessity or CPCN from the NTC. And the NTC, through that CPCN, can impose various conditions, including standards or the technical aspects of the equipment to be used by the operator. So just a side note, before RA 7925 was passed, former President Fidel Ramos actually started liberalizing the telecom sector through a series of executive orders. So he issued, the late President Ramos issued EO 59 and EO 109, which were critical for interconnection and universal access service. In fact, during the early 1990s, mobile radio telephone operators began to have interest in the Philippines, and they were already starting to invest in mobile, which at the time was a very, very new and emerging technology. Analog pa siya nun, analog mobile. Okay, so so the next law is Act 3846, or the Radio Control Law. Under this law, mobile network operator must also obtain a congressional franchise before the NTC can grant it the permit to construct or install radio station and also use spectrum. So if you want to use radio spectrum, whoever you are and however small scale your deployment is, network deployment is, you are required to get a congressional franchise. So the law also requires an MNO to obtain permits before certain activities can be done on a radio station. Example, permit to purchase equipment, permit to import equipment. Again, we are not an equipment manufacturing country, so we always import, and demo permit, construction permit, etc. So as I mentioned earlier, the latest amendment to Act 3846 actually did not improve, in my opinion lang naman, did not improve the law, but it actually added more permits. So, wala pang ease of doing business before. Okay, so since the early 1990s, the NTC has actually had to issue more regulation for mobile radio network as, you know, more as people demanded for more mobile phone services. So, mobile services actually exploded, no? Nagkaroon tayo ng mobile phone boom. Baka marami sa inyo hindi pa pinapanganak noon, pero the growth was exponential, and mobile subscription overtook landline subscription by the year 2000. Okay, what do we have to remember? If miscalculated or misinformed, regulation can actually serve to stifle innovation and competition. So for example, in 1990, back then, meron pa tayong Department of Transportation and Communication. Wala pa si DICT nun. So the DOTC issued a department circular that limited the number of nationwide mobile operators to only 2 entities. I actually don't know the rationale behind this, but it's probably not to crowd out the landline operators. So, kailangan 2 entities lang daw. But a couple of years later, the OTC reversed its own circular, and it opened the mobile. When you see CMTS, that's mobile, cellular mobile telephone system, to any number of players as long as radio frequencies are available. Okay, second, regulatory issuances need the flexibility to adapt to market changes. So, for example, in the past, the DOTC issued a department circular for interconnection for parang PTs only for landline operators. But then it had to change the DC and quickly add that interconnection will also be done between a landline operator and a mobile operator kasi nga dumadami ng mobile operator. Before, there were a lot of licenses for mobile operators. Not only 3 that we have now. Oh, sorry, 4 pala that we have now. Actually, 2 being the biggest, PLDT group and Globe. The third one being Dito. And then there's also now Telecom. Okay, next. Sorry, I can see hands being raised. Should I address any questions now or not really? Maybe later?
Maybe later? Yes, Ms. Grace.
Right. Sorry, thank you. Okay, so next. Regulation can impose standards to ensure quality of service, safety, and security. So for example, NTC has issued memorandum circulars for technical plans, let's say for telecom transmission, signaling, numbering, and also for service performance standards for mobile. NTC also certifies wireless and wireless related products, which is important for Open RAN. It issues type approvals for telecom products and type acceptance for wireless products. So sometimes issuances can be outpaced, no? Actually, most of the time. Regulatory issuances are outpaced by the changes in the market. So, for example, si DOTC issued Department Circular in the 80s pa to. So, si NTC issued a memorandum circular requiring a subscriber of a mobile service to obtain a permit to purchase and possess prior to the acquisition of radio equipment. So, imagine that. So, the result was that each subscriber, that's you and me, had to apply for an NTC permit before we could purchase a mobile phone. Of course, that would have made sense if it were just a few hundreds, diba, subscribers. But due to the poor landline coverage before, well, actually, obsolete na nga halos yung landline ngayon, many Filipinos, no matter how expensive mobile phones were, actually resorted to mobile services. So the NTC soon was, as expected, flooded with applications. And barely 3 years after, the NTC decided to issue an MC suspending the licensing requirement for mobile subscribers indefinitely. So, thank God. Otherwise, kailangan natin lahat may permit. So, ngayon, ano na lang, type approved na lang yung ano natin, yung mobile phones. And it's the mobile network operator that gets the permit.